Hi, and welcome to episode number 16 of the Two Goal Lead podcast, presented by BCHL Network. My name is Brian Wiebe. Very thrilled to have you along. The off-season is in full swing. I mean, I guess it was on episode 15 as well, but things are really heating up now that we are past June 1st as BCHL teams are seemingly signing a number of players every single day. The transactions, I'll admit, are actually a little difficult to keep up with, but it's exciting times as well, as since the break from Hockey Canada, BCHL teams have seen a much larger recruitment pool, and it's actually a perfect opportunity to chat with our guest today on the Two Goal Lead podcast. He is the general manager and head coach of the Vernon Vipers. His name is Jason McKee. Jason, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here on the Two Goal Lead podcast, presented by BCHL Network.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
So for the Vernon Vipers this season, overall, what positives do you take away from how 22-23 went for you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we had a lot of adversity early. We had some highs and lows in the first half of the season, and our core group of guys really stuck together. And more changes than normally you'd see from one of my teams, but it was something we felt like we needed to do in the first half. But I really thought our core group of players did a good job of managing that and kind of rebuilding things. And, setting ourselves up for the second half, where I thought we, had a real good second half. We became much more consistent. Our special teams were excellent throughout the year. So I think that was a real positive and just a really good group of kids to work with when it was all said and done. Guys that really cared, wanted to get better. And I think we showed that throughout the season. And then, won our first round, got into a real tough second round, lost to, a couple heartbreakers in OT, and that was probably the difference. But, overall, it was a great group to work with, a little bit of a different year, a challenging year in different ways than maybe I've seen in the past. But it was definitely, it's one thing about coaching. It's every day is a new day, and it was a great group to work with.
You talk about that group of players. Who are some of the ones that developed beyond what maybe you initially hoped for them?
Yeah, you know what? I think our returning guys did a really good job, early of really carrying our team, guys that had been there the year before. And, they were playing big minutes. And, as the year went on, we were able to kind of scale some of that back. And some of our first year guys, started to really play much better. So definitely, I think that all in all, I think our returning guys did a really good job earlier than our first year guys were able to come in and really, help with that. And, you look at, Lee Parks was a first year guy who led our team in scoring, had a tremendous year, up the middle, Hank Cleaves, Isaac Tremblay, first year guys that really came in. And, I could, go down the list. I think in the second half, like I said, it was a real combination of our returning and our first year guys of kind of figuring it out together. And that's when our depth improved.
You talked about your special teams. Penalty kill finished first overall in the league. Power play was sixth overall. Let's talk about the penalty kill first. What do you feel contributed most to your success when you were down a player?
Well, any coach you ask, goaltending, right? I think our goaltending was, outstanding all year. Both guys were very good for us in Rowan Clark and Ethan David, and just a healthy competition there. And we knew either night, whoever was going in was giving us a chance to win. And, it started there. And, I think our team was overly flashy, but we were definitely built for, some hard parts of the game. And I think that, that's where that PK came through, and our Ds were bigger and longer. They had good sticks. And I think that was a big part of it. And just the courage and determination it takes. And, I always felt like all the guys were on the same page, and, just getting off to a good start too. I think the confidence level, they got off to a good start, and they knew they could do it. And it was definitely the difference between us winning and losing a lot of hockey games this year.
How about the power play? What contributed to that success to be as high as sixth in the league at the end?
Yeah, again, just kind of consistency throughout the year. We had one stretch where it wasn't going, but for the most part, the group was always chipping in, and I think, you always want more, but consistently it just seemed like it was, chipping in. And, again, we were able to kind of set some units in the second half. And I think that helped as well. And guys playing together and just kind of allowed them to get a little bit more familiar. And just kind of one of those things where just kind of we're able to score off the rush. We're able to score off set up, some face-off things. So on the power play, there's lots of different ways to threaten, and I thought that our group did a good job of trying to manufacture goals and in those three facets, like I mentioned, face-offs, rush, and in zone setup.
Based on the players who are returning to the Vipers right now for 23-24, what do you think is the strength of the team heading into training camp in September?
Well, we got some committed guys. I think some guys that have a burning desire to win. Some guys that want to be coached. They want to be coached hard. They want to learn. And I think that's the key is your core group has to have those intangibles if you want to win a championship. And I really like our guys coming back. I liked what they're made up of. And, there's going to be some other guys that have played a couple of years in the league too that are going to be back. So there's definitely a good mix of the type of player, but most importantly, there's a lot of continuity of the type of person. And I think that's a big part for me. And, lots expected from our staff for our players. And you got to have the right guys that can do that.
As a manager, when you try to determine your roster going forward, how much do you weigh in what happened at the end of last season in that loss against Salmon Arm in the interior semis?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've had those conversations, and it was so tight. It could have went either way, and you're right there. So you're looking at different things, some trends throughout the league. Teams that played in the Final Four, and for us, we'd like to get a little quicker. I think I think size still is a factor somewhat, but it's the compete level within the person, I think, is the biggest thing. So we really want to make sure we got a group of a team of very competitive people. I think that's, first and foremost, every one of our guys needs to be a competitive person. And if we can increase our team speed, I think that's something that we, wanted to do in our off-season recruiting is obviously our depth we'd like our depth to increase, our team speed, and then just really make sure it goes back to that type of person of having that real competitive nature.
The Vipers are one of the storied franchises in the BCHL. How, if at all, does the legacy of hockey in that Vernon community impact the motivational level of the team?
Well, it's big. I think anyone that comes there recognizes that, and it's got a long tradition, and a community that supports its team extremely well. We're averaging over. I don't know the exact numbers, but it seemed like we were 2,500 and above consistently in the last 10 home games, and for Junior A, that's outstanding. And I think that's a direct result of our team trying to get out in the community as much as we can, and then them supporting us. So it's definitely a twofold relationship, and but it's a passionate group, a very passionate fan base, a very knowledgeable fan base, and that's what makes it great. And I think that's the energy that our players feed off. I think we had I think a top 5 home record in the league this year, and I attribute a ton of that to our support at home. You could feel it in the building every night, and it was just fantastic. So we're very fortunate in regards to that, and got a great facility, and an even better fan base. So like I said, we all feel coaches, organization, and our players once again feel the emotion from them, and we're really lucky to have them.
Lots of big news from the BC Hockey League this offseason, leaving Hockey Canada and now new roster rules. How have these things affected your recruiting this offseason heading into 23-24?
Yeah, you know what, a little bit. I think for the most part, we're very comfortable with the guys we have coming in, regardless of what happens on June 1st. And for us, we kind of knew either way we needed to be prepared for it. I think we've done a good job of that. So I like our guys coming in. I don't see us making many changes from that. We're in like I said, I think we're in a good spot there, and we move forward. I think where you're going to see the biggest change in the league is recruiting from the next 2 years. I think the ability to still have the same amount of percentage of BC players in the league as before, but still have the ability to, go outside of that and recruit and attract the top young talent across Canada and put them all under, one league is exciting. It's exciting to be part of, and I think that's where you're going to see the biggest change, I believe, with the league is, there'll be some movement amongst some players from league to league, and I think that's part of it. But I think the biggest thing will be that that recruiting factor, and in 2 to 3 years, I expect to see this league to be extremely deep, extremely talented, gifted, and I think that's the ultimate goal, is to try and give these players an avenue across Canada to get to college hockey.
So how do you balance the role of being hands-on at practice as the coach while simultaneously having this big picture view as the general manager?
Yeah, it's getting harder to do. I've been doing it a while, and it's definitely getting harder. There's a lot of moving parts, and I think you need to have a great staff around you, which I do. So I feel fortunate to have the people I have in the office building, across the way, and then obviously my hockey staff as well. That we all work together, and that's how we view it as a staff. It's a shared responsibility amongst us all. We're a team amongst a team, and I couldn't do it without those people, and obviously support of ownership is a big part of it. They give us the tools in order to do our job, to do our craft, and try to make this as a successful organization as possible. Not only wins, but developing people and creating a great atmosphere in Cal Tire Place. So I love it. I think it's a unique job, in that each day is different. You're never going to be doing the same thing. And some people say, well, practice is practice, but it really isn't. You're always adjusting. You're always seeing the pulse of your team, what that's going to look like the next day, and you'll have your year plans, but there's just times where you gotta make changes, and you gotta read the room, read your group, and whether it's your staff or your players. So to me, it keeps me energized, and that's what you want. You want to be challenged at your job, and I think that's one thing that being a coach and general manager at the junior A level is as challenging job as you'll see.
So as someone who's played and coached at both the junior A and WHL levels, what are your thoughts on each as a development path?
Yeah, good question. I get asked that a lot. You know what? I think they're both great. I think there's pluses to both. And I think the best advice I can give anyone is you really need to do what's in your best interest for your career. And it can't be about maybe what your brother did or your dad did or your neighbor across the street. And, they can share their experiences with you. And I think that's valuable. But at the same time, they might have been, built different than you. They might have played a different style of game than you. So I think it's really important, where are they at in academics? So there's so many different things that factor into that. And I truly believe that, if you're a good enough player and the numbers are showing that, either way, you're going to get there. It's just about the work ethic, determination. And once you make that decision, kind of, knock the door down and go for it. But you definitely want to take the time to make sure that it's a huge decision, and, what's the best thing for your career. And I think that's the best advice I can give anyone, because both are fantastic options for these young guys.
Now, thinking about your coaching career, how do you think you've grown since joining the Vipers 4 years ago?
Yeah, you know what? It's been good. It's a bit of a different challenge, something different to me for sure. Like I said, I've had some time in Alberta, and then with the Giants in Western League. So, coming to Vernon, I was well aware of the market, the passion there, and I think that was obviously enticing to me. Is that I wanted to try and be in a community that it was that was their thing. And I think in regards to sports, I think the Vernon Vipers are well known. So that was definitely something that attracted me there. And in regards to coaching, it's a yearly, monthly thing. You're always trying to pick up new things, whether it's through the National Hockey League or other coaches in our league. I've said this before. I think the BCHL is it's such a good league for the players and the product, but the people running the organizations just do an outstanding job. And whether it's coaches, the general managers, office people, like everywhere we go, it's very well organized, very well done. The leadership staff within the BCHL is just incredible. So there's just so much to like about the league, and you got to adapt with the player from year to year, and I think that's you hear every coach say that. So we're trying to grow and get better, no different than the player. So we'll do our year ends, and what are things that went well, what are things that we got to improve on, and you kind of reevaluate after every year, and you sit down with your staff and say, okay, these are the things that challenged us, these are the things that we got to do a better job of. So but only positive things to say about this league. It's fantastic to be a part of.
All right, so let's go back in the hockey time machine to 2006, and there's young Jason McKee joining the Spruce Grove Saints in the Alberta Junior Hockey League as an assistant coach. If you could go back and give any advice to yourself when you first took that step in junior hockey coaching, what would it be?
Yeah, I think just jumping in, like just it's I think the biggest thing is you got a decision to make, and it's not you got to be willing to give. I think that's a big part of it is you got to be willing to give, and any good coach, I think that's an important thing is know what the workload is coming, because it's coming. In junior A hockey, you wear a lot of different hats. So I think sometimes ex-players get into it and they realize pretty quickly, okay, this is a little different hours than when I was playing. So it's something that you have to grow your craft with, but you need to know that you're going to put in your time, and you're going to give up a lot. And I think it's different than playing. I think that's the biggest thing I learned right away is, you thought you worked pretty hard as a player, but when you get into coaching, and if you're emotionally invested, you find out the guys that make it and last pretty quickly.
All right, a couple of fun ones to leave off with here, Jason. Who's the best player that you ever played with?
Ever played with? Oh, geez, that's a tough one. I'd say the most dynamic guy I ever played with was probably Oleg Saprikin, but I'm dating myself there. But he was a first rounder, so he was a pretty dynamic guy. But I think that was probably the best guy I probably played with.
He was pretty good with the Flames back in the day. So
he was, yeah. I know he was a heck of a junior. I know that.
All right, so you played with him. Now, what about the best player that you ever played against?
Oh, geez, that's even harder question. I don't even know if I could answer that fairly, because I would forget somebody for sure that I'd be like, oh yeah, he was pretty good. So, that's tough. That's like you said, I played in both leagues. So, as a young guy in college hockey, and there was some fantastic players, and then coming back and playing in the Western League, there's obviously some high end guys too. So, I don't know if I could answer that. I would be missing someone, so I'm gonna have to pass on that one.
You need a little more time to think about it.
I do, yeah. I'd be feeling bad because I'd leave somebody out for sure.
I'm trying to look at some of the leading scorers in the dub that season that you played. And so that's sort of what I'm looking at. It's like Pavel Brendel and trying to stop those types of players. Scott Hartnell was in the league as well that season that you played. So I was just trying to pick out some, as you were thinking about that answer, I was looking at some of those guys. But they might not have been the best.
I know Scott Hartnell. We played, so we know each other from Lloydminster back in the day. So I'll pick him. He'll be happy for me to say that.
All right. That's fantastic. Jason, thanks so much for doing this. Really do appreciate it. Best of luck through the off season here and heading into the 23-24 season.
Okay, thanks for having me, Brian.
The Vernon Vipers hoping to make ground in the Interior Conference and a longer playoff run coming up in the 23-24 season in the BCHL. Should be exciting to see how things shake down as the Vipers. That Interior Conference is always a challenging task, and it'll be interesting to see how things break down coming up in the next season, which is not all that far away. Believe it or not, I know the sun is shining, summertime is pretty much here, but the hockey season isn't all that far off. All right, now I want to talk to you about BCHL Network. If you're interested in joining our team, well, there's a button on the website. It says join our team, and there's a form there that you can fill out. It automatically sends an email to me, and I will reply to you, and hopefully there's a fit there for you to get some experience in online writing, in sports journalism. If you have a passion for the BC Hockey League or junior hockey, would love to have you on board with BCHL Network. Also, if you would like to sponsor BCHL Network, that's an opportunity there as well. There is a button on the website up at the very top in the left corner that says advertise. And there's an option there for you to advertise. Our latest advertising package is there. Some statistics about our social media metrics, as well as page views on the website. And so if you do want to support what myself and our writers do at BCHL Network, including this very podcast, do click on advertise there at the top left corner of bchlnetwork.ca. And of course, speaking of the work, lots of amazing content on the website as well, trying to keep the BCHL bulletin going every single day, and as well lots of articles and insight from our writing team at BCHL Network as well. All right, so last thing to let you know about is we'd appreciate if you could like and subscribe to the podcast as well. There's lots of different places that you can find this podcast: Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, and Stitcher. This very show, this one you're listening to right now, is available on all of those platforms. You might be listening to it at bchlnetwork.ca. That's why we posted it at the website. Super easy to do. However, would appreciate if you could smash that like and subscribe button at any of those podcast platforms that you use. All right, that's going to do it for the 16th episode of the 2 Goal Lead podcast presented by BCHL Network. Coming up on our next episode, it is episode number 17. We will chat with a member from the Victoria Grizzlies. Hope you'll join us for that. Until then, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.